Welcome to the Northern Powerhouse interview series, where we're unashamedly spreading good news by interviewing Northern businesses and their successes during the pandemic. Subscribe to be notified of new interviews or click the link in the description to take part if you'd like to be interviewed yourself in a future episode. Great. Well, this afternoon we have Tom McLoughlin of SEO Travel, who's going to talk us through his experiences, his highs and lows through the COVID outbreak and share us his vision of the future. So welcome, Tom. Really great to have you on the call. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the viewers, who you are, what you and the business do and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. Yeah, as you said, I'm Tom McLoughlin. I'm the founder of SEO Travel. We do SEO and wider digital marketing for travel companies. So yeah, when we started out back in 2011, it was pretty much just SEO, whereas we've broadened that service offering now to include PR, web design, and other digital marketing channels too. We generally work with smaller businesses, so independents, one-man bands, but also some bigger companies if they come on board. And yeah, as we'll come on to, we've kind of broadened out from travel since then. But back in February, it was very much travel focused and specialised in the travel industry.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, I can't wait to talk about how you've changed and expanded. But so going back 8-9 months, which it is now, I couldn't believe that when I wrote this the other day. Just was writing down how long it had been. How has the COVID outbreak specifically affected you guys?
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal. So as I said, obviously we specialised in travel. So when it started taking off kind of the back end of February, early March, it felt like we were slightly ahead of the curve in hearing about it. We have we have clients who specialise in trips out to Asia and that side of the world. And it started to impact them basically as soon as it was taken off in China. So we, from relatively early in March, kind of had clients starting to fall away and having to pause working with us because of that. And then, again, sort of before it really took hold in the UK, with various clients who were taking people off to lots of different destinations. The client base was kind of independent tour operators and people like that specialize in locations elsewhere, Greece, Morocco, the US, all these kind of things. So yeah, they were sort of feeling the bump ahead of lockdown happening in the UK. So we probably lost 2/3 of our client base over that period. There was probably 2 weeks of every day a couple of emails coming in and people needing to pause, and we did our best to support those companies through that phase. Obviously, it wasn't a case of having a battle with them. It was, we wanted to help them and we understood the challenges they were having. And yeah, just sort of the brains started whirring and trying to come up with ways that we could get around it ourselves while still supporting those people to keep things afloat here. Brilliant.
I mean, brilliant that we're going to talk about how you've adapted and how you've overcome that significant challenge. I mean, anyone that had that significant impact on the business, understandably, that would be a bit of a holy crap moment. I would imagine, probably slightly not as polite as that.
Yeah, for all the things we'll come on to talk about, there was definitely a little phase of curling up in a ball and having a little cry before thinking, right, we need a way out of this.
And we're going to talk a lot about what you've done, and it's for me it's a wonderful story. And I've said to you when we've met before that I wouldn't have, it's totally understandable what you do, that anyone would have a period of oh heck, what we're going to do. But tell us how you've adapted.
Yeah, so we were in the fortunate position that we're a team of 9 of us, and we've got this set of skills in general, digital marketing. Whether it's the web design side of things, doing SEO for people, the specialism in travel, had always kind of elevated us higher for people in that sector. So I would say across the board, I haven't come across an agency yet that delivers a better service to travel companies than what we offer. But when you take that specialism out of it, we still had a group of people who were very, very talented at what they do. So it made sense that travel, looking like it was, the first thing that was hit and would probably be the last thing that came out of it, that specialism was not necessarily the best place to be over the course of it happening, however long it lasted for. So we decided that we'd try and spin it out and start offering it to different sectors. We, sort of toyed with the idea of just a generic agency that does digital marketing, but naturally that's a very crowded marketplace. And the big success that I think we've had with the travel side of things, and from discussing that with clients whenever they've come on board, is that they like that we specialize in the industry. They like that we know the industry. So I thought a better route to go would be to identify one or some other industries that we could also specialize in, really dive into it and get to know it, and then kind of set up a few new agencies, if you like, to that were specialists in those different places. So that was what we did. We, after speaking with the team and trying to work out where best we thought to go, we kind of looked at where we had some experience in some shape or form, and where we looked at where like the return on investment for the people we did the work for would be high. So we ended up doing it for recruitment companies. So we set up our second agency, if you like. So that's called Growth Recruits, which is now up and running, and we have clients for. Again, the return for that is obviously, if people, when they're hiring people, if they're hiring senior people, there's a decent return on that. There's search interest out there. It definitely seemed like an accessible market for us to get into, and we actually had a client already who was a recruiter but for the travel industry. So we already had a case study kind of raring to go that had been really successful, where we'd done web design, we'd done the SEO, we'd done the PR for them. So that was kind of sat waiting for us to use. And then we share an office building with an architect, and we kind of had some informal conversations with them about their marketing. And so I'd kind of toyed around with that a little bit and spoke to them and said, would you be interested in us doing a bit more work with you to show off what we can do, and use it as a bit of a trial to get used to the industry and get to know it a little bit more and get that depth of knowledge that we felt we needed. So we moved into that, and that was it. Agency 3 was so that's Elevation 1618. So we now have moved into that and worked with a variety of architects since we got going. And then we also coincidentally had our kitchen done relatively recently, and we did that with a kind of an independent business. I got to know the founder very, very well, who was still a small business, and he was very involved, and got chatting to him about his marketing through that process. And then so this all took off, and I thought, right, hang on, that's another industry where if someone sells a kitchen, they make they don't need to sell many kitchens for it to bring a good return for them. So kind of went back and got in touch with him and said, would he like us to do a bit of work for them, and again kind of build out a case study to do that. So that kind of popped up and flourished, and we got some good results for them. So that Spruce agency that we now kind of specialize in for kitchen and interior businesses, doing that. So that was we kind of immediately jumped on getting those things set up, but then they've sort of rolled out in a staggered way as we obviously just trying to manage workload and everything that was going on at the time, to get to a point now where we've got decent case studies for all of those agencies, and we're now more proactively out selling and trying to get clients on for them.
Brilliant. So let's just I'll just get the numbers sort of, if I may. So you dropped, how much of business did you lose at its lowest point from pre-COVID to? Yeah, so
revenue wise, we probably dropped two-thirds. We lost two-thirds worth of revenue. So
Wow.
Okay. So it was a pretty significant chunk. We're now back to, probably recovered a third of that now. So we're probably back to, we're at two-thirds of the revenue that we were at pre-COVID. Which has been a battle, but it's nice to yeah, it's nice to kind of see the pendulum swinging in the back in the right direction now.
And all things being equal, we don't know when the travel industry is going to come back into play, but you've got all that business potentially to reconnect with at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done some things alongside, all the new things setting up, as I said, kind of from a support point of view for the travel clients. So whilst they obviously had, I mentioned earlier on being grateful for the chance that we had to pivot. Obviously the clients that we're working with who are travel industry people, like they don't really have somewhere else to go with it. They've just had to hunker down and mothball and try and hold out until it comes round. So we tried to do some stuff then that was more educational stuff, and they had a lot of busy periods trying to work things out with getting people back home who are already away, or sorting out refunds and all these kind of things. But then inevitably they have a bit of time spare, so we did some webinars and things like that to try and give them some more information for stuff that they could do with their time that they had spare, to make the most of any time that they had without having the budget to spend on someone else doing it for them. So we did some stuff like that, and hopefully when things do start to turn back around, there'll be that got us a bit of exposure from a PR point of view as well. So hopefully that will kind of bear some fruit when things come back around. And like you say, we've got this kind of other strand of the business now, so that hopefully as travel starts to top back up to where close to where it was before, we'll have these other things going on, and hopefully it'll come out in a stronger place.
And I guess you're just scratching the surface of the new industries you're in. I mean, it's quite early days for all of those particular sectors from what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, kind of recruitment's been the initial one that we've kind of pushed on. So we've got a few clients on board for that now. And then kind of the architect and the kitchen stuff is almost just starting to take off. So it hasn't had a huge marketing push on that front. So yeah, hopefully when we do that, it'll bring some more people in. So it's been very hard, but I think when we come out the other side of it and some normality resumes, hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have a much stronger foundation in place to grow the business and develop things.
Brilliant. We're looking at both, obviously, having to change the business, but also internally with regard to operating under the lockdown of COVID. What are some of the biggest issues that you've had to overcome over this period?
Yeah, so like everyone, trying to work out, things moved very fast. So obviously there's things like furlough popping up and opportunities like that, where everyone was just trying to get their head around if you're eligible, what, to what extent are you eligible, how can you use it? So there was a lot of, in amongst the kind of start new agencies, tear your hair out about new clients, try and support clients that are in trouble, all the internal stuff of trying to understand, just literally understand what was going on, never mind what you could actually do with that. That did put a lot of strain on. But then, so we put kind of about half the team onto furlough for a few months in that initial phase. Obviously the client numbers dropped, and so we didn't have the level of work to service during that period. And then, there's kind of, as time's gone on and as we've started to move into the other agencies taking off, there's some logistical things coming into that because we're working a few brands now. So it's kind of working out the best way to implement that when it's under a few different umbrellas. So I'd be lying if I said we'd fully sorted that out. We're still in the process of doing it. But the main thing for me, I think, has just been making sure that the quality of the work that we do is still a super high level, and everything else will roughly fall into place off the back of that. As long as we're doing good work for people, we're helping them get good results. I think everyone's obviously a bit more forgiving with their the day-to-day aspects and type of things, and administration type points, or branding, or how you come across and things like that. If some of those things are slightly out of joint for a little while, I think that it will pan out and we'll work it out. But in the shorter term, as I say, it's just been making sure that when we are doing stuff for the clients that have managed to stay on, or the new people have joined, that we're just we're focused in on the results for them.
Great. And just looking at the sort of the changes you made, the adjustments you've had to make, both with regard to the business, but also the operation internally. What will you keep doing, post when we get to the new normal, whatever that looks like?
Yeah. I mean, I guess operationally as well. Obviously, one of the things that everyone's done is has had to do is to all the remote working and that side of things. We actually. Again, we're fortunate in the sense that we already worked a day from home, the whole team. So we were kind of set up in the sense that everyone was comfortable. We had the platforms and things in place to do that. So we didn't really see much of a bump from doing that. But it's definitely, I think, something that has been shown to be effective. It's not there's lots of benefits to doing it. I think certainly in bigger organizations out there that are, stuck in the ways, or a bit sort of more adverse to change, they're seeing it that trusting people to just get on with their job and empowering them and letting them have that responsibility is a good thing. And I think that's something that we will move more in that direction. So rather than just doing a day a week, it might be something that becomes more regular when it all pans out. And then obviously in terms of the general delivery side of things, all these things we did to fill the void, they've all worked really well. And like I said, we've been getting really good results for people. So it's not one of those things where we're looking at it thinking, travel's back now, so we can just dust all those things off and put them on the shelf. I think we'll keep pushing on and hopefully growing the team. It's also been interesting to just move into some different sectors and see different things working in other areas. And it's a bit of a reset button on that front, just to, get some insight into that. So I think that will come back to the travel side of things. It will kind of inform what we do there, and some interesting things we can take back to it, but equally from the travel side, things that we can maybe bring to the table in other sectors that seem to be ignored. We have found that some of these sectors, SEO seems to have been not paid much attention, and there's a huge amount of opportunity there. So I think we'll continue pushing those things and hopefully grow. We'll grow the team to bring on some new areas that can enhance what we do already.
Brilliant. And if you're going back to March and those events, what, if anything, would you have done sooner?
Do you mean after the news was breaking, or do you mean just in general?
I guess in hindsight, yeah. I mean, it's different for different people. Obviously, the news had a massive impact. Is there anything looking back that you would have learned from, or other people can learn from that? Yeah,
I would. Interestingly, this sort of reactive thing that we did when COVID took off with the new agencies and some other projects that we've really pushed along internally. They weren't things we hadn't discussed before. They'd been going on for quite a long time and kind of been an idea one day we might do these things, and then COVID has just made it happen and accelerated that. So it's a tricky. So obviously it's easy to say in hindsight, but looking at your priorities, looking at ideas, and kind of making sure that you're facilitating moving those things forward. That's I would look back and say, oh well, I'm glad once we're through it and there's a bit of normality has returned, I can imagine myself being in a place where I will look at it and say, I'm glad that prompted us to do those things, because I think we'll come out the other side in a stronger place. So definitely kind of going down that route and putting in place the things we've been thinking about and talking about already is a good thing. And I think there's some things, there's some internal projects as well that we've been doing, which kind of make the most of the skills that we've got in the team, and sort of have a variety of benefits, both us sort of showing off what we can do with our own projects, as well as kind of actually creating things that will be beneficial and bring revenue to the business in the longer term as well, having some assets that will be useful for us. Things like that again just kind of weren't really getting much attention, and it's pushed that through and made that happen. So yeah, I guess as an overarching piece of advice or learning from my side, I think that's, not making sure you facilitate those things slightly easier. One of the things we've talked about before is putting systems in place that allow you to facilitate those things, so that they don't fall off the list and get forgotten about, or so that they don't just get pushed down by the day-to-day, seemingly urgent things that aren't necessarily as important. Those kind of things, I think, it's shone a light on them and made clear that you should act on them if you can.
Yeah, it's almost, listening to you talk, it's almost like a key part of strategic planning could be, and in hindsight, what we just said is, what would we do if we lost 2/3 of our business overnight? What would we do? And then do it. But from a place of, but we haven't lost that, so let's add, another 2/3 of what that would look like to our business. So it's interesting how challenges create activity that could have been there anyway, if that makes sense. And
Definitely. Yeah, it's amazing. A bit of fire up the arse. We'll make you do some interesting things.
Absolutely, and it's sort of the activity of making that happen even in times where we don't need to will move us on in steps and bounds. That's pretty cool. So how do you? I'll
just add to that, Chris, as well. I think that taking the first step is a big thing there as well, where it is the action part of it. Of if it's sat on a to-do list, it just kind of sits on a to-do list. Whereas if you just do the little starting step, the problem is with some of those things, it's like if we look at it and we'd said, oh, we want to start a new agency in a different sector, it's like, bloody hell, that's a massive job. Whereas if it's just like, well, what do we need to do that? Well, the first thing is buy a domain name for a website, or just decide on the name of the agency or something like that. Just starting the ball rolling and breaking it into more manageable pieces, I think is definitely a good way to go about it if you don't have the urgency of a pandemic to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. We in what we do, we've got something called a formula for change, and a part of that is first steps, and make the first steps as easy as possible will reduce the resistance to the change. And listening to what you said, one of the steps, as well as the domain name, was then let's just find one client that would want to do a case study with us, and then the next one and the next one. So fascinating, yeah, no, absolutely fascinating. So, what's your reaction to the second lockdown?
Yeah, it's been interesting, really. It hasn't changed much for us, to be honest. I think certainly in the travel sector, I don't think it's necessarily had a huge amount of impact, because at the end of the day, people weren't looking to book holidays abroad in November. So I think from a mindset point of view of travel businesses, it's not really changed anything from their perspective, and as a knock on for us, it's not really set them back or push them forward in any way. So yeah, not that much, obviously. And then versus the first lockdown, when there was all the uncertainty and trying to set up remotely, or just not understanding furlough, and all these different pieces that were getting thrown into the mix. Now all of that has been done once. It's kind of been practiced and set up, so it hasn't really thrown anything different into the mix, to be honest, from our perspective.
It's what we're hearing from most people. And I think it's that one of the key parts for us is the people tend to fear the unknown. Well, this one is both known in terms of its period, we believe, and also the impact. And so even if it's it's having the same impact, it's not. We're able to deal with it better mentally.
Yeah.
So let's go into the future, and let's imagine we're in a new normal, whatever that is, whenever that is. What are you most looking forward to?
From a business perspective?
From any perspective you choose.
Yeah, I mean, security, I think, is a pretty big word amongst it. As we've said, there's an excitement of when that time comes, whenever it is. as I said, I think we'll be in a stronger position for it to grow what we do and kind of offer it to more people. But yeah, just, not having to look over your shoulder and wonder what might happen, is something going to happen tomorrow that means another chunk of clients disappears, or just that, like you say, the fear of the unknown and that stuff happening. So I think from a business perspective, that's what it is for me, just getting to a point where there is just a bit more predictability, that we can go back to what we were doing before, which, we had a record month in February before it all took off. So, kind of picking up where we left off there, just having a few more assets in place to build on. I think from a personal perspective, a bit of adventure, like that's as we've all been locked up and not being able to see the people we want to see and go the places we want to go. So I imagine, as you can imagine, I like to travel, given that we work in and have to look at glorious travel websites all day for our work. So kind of being able to get out there, I imagine we'll be on a plane going somewhere fairly quickly after to.
You and me both. I can't wait. Even just to go there and come back, it's just like
yeah.
Great. So, what would you say you've learned about yourself over this period?
I mean, a lot. I think the resilience is a big part of what we've had to go through. I think Claire, my wife, is kind of a partner in the business, so there's another sort of thing thrown into it was that we were both trying to deal with it at the same time, and we've got 3 little kids that we're trying to juggle at the same time as all of those things happening. So kind of as part of the family unit there, having to deal with it and get through it, it's you see how capable you are of doing that kind of thing. So to be honest, just coming out the other side feels like an achievement to do that without ripping each other's heads off. Still have a marriage intact, but it's whether resilience, adaptability is another thing of coming out of that, of realizing that you can get some pretty crazy stuff thrown at you and come up with solutions to it. I think up until now, the way the business has grown, it's been fairly, kind of prosaic in terms of we just had a model that has been done before and we just sort of took it, and we had the travel specialism and we just delivered that. Whereas this has probably thrown us into a place where it's, potentially the first time where I've had to properly just from scratch work something out as to what we do and how we do it. So things like that is a big thing. I think like everyone as well, you just it's made me a bit more reflective on stuff and looking at what's important. And when you're drowning in all these worries, you start to assess what is a real worry and what isn't. And I think that a lot of people through this period have gone through that kind of thing. So I kind of pretty much, I think I'm better now at compartmentalizing things and looking at what's what the big picture is, because if we hadn't been able to do that, would have been in bother, I think. So it's nice. I think that's a sort of tool of again that I've had to develop from less a realization, more a tool that has had to be developed through it to cope with it, which I will take away and kind of carry on using and be all the better for it, I think.
Yeah, and we know each other fairly well, and I would honestly say, you've demonstrated, whether you learned it or you had it already, but that resilient nature to actually choose to take action is, and a lot of people, and it won't be there's no shame in it, but a lot of people won't have done and probably still have their head in their hands and not knowing what to do, but you've chosen to make that period a very short period and then get on and build your business into different sectors, and the evidence is there. So really well done. Be great, maybe 6 to 12 months, come back and we'll do this again, and you can tell us where you are then, because that would be a wonderful story. Hopefully, without the losing the 71st 2/3 of your business moving forward, it would just be we just added the other 2/3. Will be
yeah. Hopefully, yeah, indeed, and maybe we can be sat in the same room when we're doing it, and
that would be nice. That would be brilliant. Or maybe somewhere overseas we could let's do it on a beach.
Coordinate it, absolutely, yeah.
So, just finally, I guess it'd be great to know your view of the future. What's the future look like for you in the business?
Yeah, I think, what we've been through up to now, I think, has been survival, where, I think we're starting to move to, news of things like the vaccine and other positive things in wider worldwide politics and all these kind of things. It all feels like they're nice steps forward, and all those things happening together feel like a bit of a nice omen. So hopefully that'll continue and it'll change. It feels like a bit of a tipping point from that survival mode to back to growth mode. And when I look at it, I kind of think if we can get through the next 6-12 months and still be in relatively good shape without any major damage done, and the world returning to a bit of normality, I think we'll be in a great shape to really kick on. We've got a stronger foundation there to grow in different ways, and we're looking at how we can grow the team out to offer more. And when we're speaking to clients about what would be useful for them and what kind of services would be beneficial, there's definitely some things in there that I think we can add on to what we do already that will help kind of complete that sort of start to finish process to, because at the end of the day, we're in the business of helping people grow the business and driving more leads, but then also doing the things that help take those leads to becoming business, new customers, new clients, whatever it might be. So, doing more along those lines that kind of complete the circle. So yeah, hopefully that'll happen. And from my point of view, as it's looking at wider goals from a personal and a business perspective, I think it's doing those things that can help that growth and a bit more freedom to do the things that we want to do, because that's the reason you start the business in the first place. So yeah. Brilliant.
Well, I've no doubt we'll see more and more wins from you over the next few months and years. And as I say, let's get together again in 6 to 12 months, and you can update us on all your successes and wins that you've achieved by that point. So
fingers crossed. I'd love to, Chris. I'd love to report those things if they happen.
It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen, mate. You've come through one of the worst challenges that I think many people in business will have experienced over probably their lifetimes. So if you can do that and do anything, I would suggest. Yeah. So no, I'd really like to thank you for taking time to do this. I think it will help a lot of people who are still challenged by the situation and a view of the future, and the way you dealt with it then, and you're still dealing with what the potential holds. I think will help a lot of people think hard about how they can take the opportunity from the challenge. So thanks so much, Tom. It's great to spend some time with you.
Thank you for having me on.
Cool. Thanks for watching. What was your takeaway from today's interview? Please post it in the comments below, and subscribe for all our upcoming videos, or click for the next video here.